Hello there, my name is Ismail and welcome to another Blender 2.8 tutorial, and today we're going to be looking at how I made these medieval props. We have a barrel, we have a crate, and then a cut. So yeah, let's dive in and see how we did this. So I already have a time lapse of how I did the project from start to finish, but this is going to be more like a step-by-step tutorial, but I won't be doing everything you see here, because I think this is a very basic shapes that don't need explaining. I'll only be touching the difficult parts, like making these creases that you see there, because you can see this is a single mesh. So this is a single mesh, and that makes it easier to kind of bake the materials onto a lower polygon mesh if you wanted to do that. So I'm going to be showing you how to do that, and maybe also another part will be on how I did the materials. But remember, the project files, you can download the project files on my Patreon page. That way you can support the channel. But the materials that we use in this project are going to be downloaded. You can download them for free. You don't have to be a patron. It's only the project files that you have to be a patron to download. So I'll be leaving all the links in the description for you to download them if you want to. So let's dive in and get started on this here. So the first thing I'm going to be making is this kind of wooden platform that I transform into this barrel roll and these crates here. As you can see, this is just this barrel is just kind of a modified version of this platform here, using the modifiers, as I'll show you in the next few seconds. I'll also be doing the materials in the next video, I think, in the next part. But let's start with this platform here. So the platform was very easy. I just started with a plane, scaled it to the size that I wanted, applied rotation and scale, and then using Ctrl R, I added a few loops, and you can use your middle mouse wheel. Let me turn on my screen keys here so that you can see what I'm doing. So you can use Ctrl R and then use your middle mouse wheel to add in loops. So just add in the number of loops you want for the planks you see here, and then without changing your selection, you can hold on Ctrl B. Let me go to wireframe here so that you can see what I'm doing. So you can hold on Ctrl B to bevel those edges, and then use your middle mouse wheel to add in an extra edge loop. Make sure it's a tighter loop like that, and then before you unselect, hold on Ctrl and then hit minus on your keyboard, on your numpad, to deselect the extra edges, and then we need to pull these down like that to create that that kind of effect. If you can see that the way my viewport is shaded, I can easily see the edges, the sharp edges of my mesh, and this you can do. You can visualize by changing your viewport shading to random, to give you random colors for every object, and also turn on curvity to show those sharp corners. So I didn't want to have a lot of polygons at the bottom side here, because the camera won't be seeing that area. So I just selected these two sides and then extruded them down, and then hit F to enclose that to have something like that. I didn't add extra polygons as well for this. I didn't add extra polygons for the faces here because I didn't think that was necessary. So then to add this metallic sheet around the platform, this sheet here, what I did is again I added a plane. Let me go back to this modded, then scaled it to the size of the platform, something like that, and then go to edit mode. Make sure you apply scale and rotation. That way when you bevel the face, it gives you even thickness. So let's hit I to bevel the face, and you can see we have that. Now we don't need the inside here, so we can delete that face, so we'll remain with that, and then hit E to extrude, and you get something like that. And then you can select to kind of add this crease here. Just select these edge loops. And to select an edge loop, you hold down Alt and then select any of the vertex, any of the edges, and an edge loop, the edge loop connected to that will be selected. So Alt and then select the edge loop. If you want to select multiple edge loops, you hold down Alt and then Shift, and then that way you can select different edge loops. So we're going to do the same thing as we did here. So Ctrl B to bevel the edge loop. Make sure you have a third loop in there, and to add in more loops, you just use your middle mouse wheel like that. So then Ctrl minus to deselect all the other loops except the middle one, and then you can use Alt S to scale that edge loop along its polygon, along its normals. So another way, if you didn't want to use Alt S, you can just scale using the individual origins like that. It should give you the same effect. So yeah, that's how I did the platform. This the handles are very easy. Let's look at how I made this wheel here. So I will just select this, maybe delete it, I don't need it anymore. So for the wheel, that was simple as well. I just added a circle. Make sure you have enough polygons for that. So 32, the default 32 is enough. So then go to edit mode, hit E to extrude that in like that, and then extrude in the other direction as well like that. So you can see that we have a wooden part for this, and also a metallic part for it's kind of a metallic sheet wrapped around the wheel, just to, I think, to avoid, I don't know, that's how most of the reference images that I saw were designed. So I chose to do it like that as well. Yes, so to do that, just go in here and add a loop in the middle here, and then Ctrl B to bevel that. Make sure you remove the extra loop in the middle by using your middle mouse wheel, and then we have that. So we need to extrude this out along its normal. So I will just use Alt E to get this option, extrude option, and then extrude along normals, which you can also do from here. The option is under this extrude here. This option may not be available to you depending on the version of Blender 2.8 you're using. So make sure you're using the latest to have access to this option. So Alt E, then extrude along normals. Okay, this is not what I thought would happen. Let's see, did I use the Ctrl E, extrude along normals? It should be like this, but for some reason, maybe our normals are not recalculated. So try recalculating your normals, and then using Control N, Shift N to recalculate normals, so that they're pointing in the right direction. Another way to check your normals is just, if you're in Blender 2.8, the latest version, you just go under here, and then turn on face orientation. It should show you the different the faces are the right direction, or the angle of the normals they're facing in. And if you enter in, so if they're facing the wrong direction, you will see red. If they're facing the right direction, you will see purple. And so sorry, if they're facing the inside, you will see red. If they are facing the outside, you will see this purple or bluish color, whatever this is. So now that we have done that, we can use Alt E, and again we're not getting the same effect. Let's try extrude along normals, this option here. Still we are not getting the same. Maybe that's a bug. So let's just hit E, and don't move anything. Just scale on the X and Y plane, and to scale along the X and Y plane, you hold down, you hit S for scale, and then Shift Z. So it was actually the X and Z plane instead of the X and Y plane. So now that we have that, we can turn off face orientation, and I'll also bring back, or let me go back to solid mode so that we can see. So we have that done. Now to add in these kind of support poles, we can add a loop here. And I didn't want to kind of have to deal with all these pause. So what I did is I deleted some of the parts of the wheel, and I used the mirror modifier to add in. So then I would just select maybe this and this and this and this, then use Ctrl+Shift+B bevel just the selected vertices, and I use your middle mouse wheel to add more resolution to that. But we need to make these turn these into circles or cylinders, so that they're cylindrical supports. But I think also these star supports can be interesting, so if you want to use those, you can just hit E to extrude them, and you can get something like that. But you see that they'll start intersecting. So if you want to reduce the intersection, you can just select each star end individually and scale it down until they are not as intersecting as they were before. So something like that, and you can create a different version of the wheel you want here. But if that's not what, if you just want to go for, okay, this is frozen. If you want to go for the same wheel, I'll just delete these. You need to kind of turn these stars into circles by holding down Shift, Alt, S, and then 1, and you should turn those into circles like that. And then after, you can select those loops and hit E. Here Alt S works fine, so you can use that. And then I didn't add that. Do this, you can do that if you want, but then you can add the mirror modifier again to get that. Maybe let's do this as well. So E. Yeah, so for this inside part, you can see this part here. You can see I just added a cylinder, circle, extruded it, and beveled it to have this smooth curve. Maybe let me show you how I did that. Also reduced the polygon count to around 16, so that I don't have a lot of polygons there. So let me make sure that I have. So the way I did that, I just extruded that, hit F, I'd kind of turn it into a face, and then Ctrl+B to bevel that, and that's how I got that rounded off. Let's see what else. So for the crate, what I did is just I already had the platform, so what I did, I just selected this platform, separated it, and deleted the extra parts. And let me make sure I'm deleting exactly what should be deleted. Deleted the extra parts, and I think this, and then basically just rotate them around, duplicate them until you get the crates you want. So for the barrel, what I did is let me first, you need to have more resolution at the back side. Maybe let me show you what happens if you don't have that. So I'll rotate this 90 degrees, sorry, clear rotation, rotate this 90 degrees in the Y, and basically what I want to use is a circle curve to bend this into a barrel. So I will add the curve modifier. So where is it? Where is the curve modifier? I select this as the curve. I need to position it in the center of the curve. So I'll select the curve, Shift S, cursor to selected, and then select the mesh, selection to cursor. And that way I can easily position it and follow the curve. Now I just need to worry about the deformation axis. So you can see that it's deforming correctly, but in the wrong direction. So I'll rotate this on the x-axis 90 degrees. Let's try Y. Yeah, so Y seems to be the axis we want. You can see because we don't have enough polygons here, we are getting this issue. And another issue, you see that this is bending in the opposite direction. So we can try using the negative axis. Let's see. Or we can continue rotating this 360 so that it rotates. Maybe is it 180? Let's try 180. 180. Yeah, I think it's 180. Yeah, so that this face inside, and yeah, and now we just need to add more resolution here. So I can go to edit mode, then add more resolution there. So just to make sure that I preview what I'm doing here, I'm just going to turn on these two icons here so that when we go to edit mode, the mesh is still bent or is still affected by our modifier. So I'll add a few cuts there, and that you can see now we have that bent correctly. And now we can add an array modifier. Make sure it's above the curve modifier, and now we just need to change the relative offset to be in the y-axis. So we can make this. Now you see we have a gap here. So I also don't want this to have this face here because it will create doubles we don't need. So I'll delete that. Now we just need to fill this gap up. So what I'll do, I'll just scale this in the x-axis, in the y-axis, sorry. Depending on the scale and rotation of your mesh, you might find that you will need to play around with the different axis to get it right. So let me also, because I don't see the way I'm joining this, I'm going to turn on wireframe. Where is that option? Okay, wireframe, so that I can easily see how I join this. So let me scale this in the Y. You also have the option to merge vertices in new array, so I'll turn that on and scale this. But the problem is, let me turn off the array for a second here, is that this plank here is larger than all the other parts. So what I can do is delete these vertices so that have I done this right? Let me see. Yeah, I think that will help. So let's maybe add a fourth array, and then scale this again in the y-axis. Let's see, scale in the y-axis. So I think we can also delete this extra face here, or vertex. So if I remove that and again scale this in the x-axis, I can have this connected. I think we also need to delete this vertex here so they can easily be connected. So I'll scale this again in the y direction like that. Yeah, so something like that. If you want, you can select this outside loop, because you can see it is intersecting with that, so you can push it back a bit. So let's push it back a bit. So it's creating a gap here. So I think that's okay, because we can always come back after we apply the array. We can come back and remove that. So now that we have that, I think we can apply the array right now. Maybe not. We can add a few loops here. You know what? It's easier if we first apply the array. So I'll apply this and then apply the curve as well. So now we can delete this curve, and we can also come in and remove or join these extra polygons. I don't think we have any extra polygons, so just to make sure, I'll just select everything, right click, and then merge vertices by distance. So previously it was called merge doubles. Now it has been changed to merge distance, and the option is now at under another menu, merge vertices, and you have the option down here. So yeah, that has been changed in the new version of Blender, in the new iteration of Blender 0.8. So now that we are done with that, let's see Do we have any other issues? I think we do have an issue here. Again, that came around, I think, because of how I chose to scale these objects, but that's okay. You can get the right scale for your objects. So I'm just going to fix a few of these issues here. But if you get the scale correct, you shouldn't run into that issue. So I'll add in a loop here. Make sure it goes around all the way, and then another one in the inside. And I'm just trying to make this curved like that, like the barrel. Select those middle loops and then scale them out like that. Depending on the scale you want, you can scale them however you want. So now you can, to make them rounded like that, you just bevel this, Ctrl B. You can see if you don't want it to be that curved or pushed out, you just need to reduce your scale. So instead of scaling it too far, you just scale it a bit like that and then give it a bevel, or just select everything in object mode and then Shift S scale, S Shift Z. That can also help. So I think that's the hard part. These rings, you just add a curve like this. Make sure you have enough polygons or enough vertices for this, and then you can scale it out, something like that. Or you can just watch the time lapse on how I did that, because I don't want to make this too long by explaining everything that I did, because I think some of these are fairly simple. So you can see that now I can extrude this along its normals. Sometimes you will have issues with the normals, so recalculate them and then Alt E, extrude along normals. I think this is a bug. If it doesn't work, just add a loop, Ctrl R and then Ctrl B to bevel that, remove the extra vertices. And since we have the loops we want, we can then scale them in the X and Y plane like that to have that. If you want to round off these corners, you just select those edge loops and then bevel them like that. So if I remove the cavity, let me go back here. If I remove the cavity map and turn on small shading, you can see how this looks. But we are losing details here, so we can come in here and turn on, under the mesh data, we can turn on auto smooth to have something like that, and maybe auto smooth for this as well. So another thing you will notice is that in my renders, in the time lapse, is that I added a bevel modifier, a subdivision surface modifier to this, which also led to the loss of detail on the mesh. But also you may also want to kind of fill this in, bridge these two here. So let me do this. Let's see. Bridge these edge loops. Let me first turn off the subdivision surface, right click, bridge edge loops. Okay, so if that doesn't work and you're getting the same issue that I'm getting here, just fill in one edge loop like that and then select the entire ring and hit F. That will fill in the rest of the other parts. Now we just need to deal with these artifacts here. So you can just connect this to this, and that should we have an intersection here, so I can delete that, bridge that again, and we have that. So we have a really large n-gon here. So if you want, you can just come in and start connecting the different faces, but I think it was okay for mine. I wasn't too bothered with that, so I left it as it is. So yeah, another thing you could do, if you add the subdivision surface, you will lose a lot of detail, and again, you'll also be running into these issues because we have an n-gon, a really large n-gon. So you may want to come in and reduce the size of the n-gon by adding cuts in different areas. That should help with with the subdivision surface. I don't really actually remember how I handled this, because I don't think this is how I did this. I must have done it in a different way. I see. Okay, so what I didn't do it exactly like this, because I see it's a bit different. So let me delete this. So what I used the solidify modifier to give this the thickness that you see here. So I used the solidify modifier and then applied it. That's why you see we don't have any endgons there. So if we do this here as well, just add the solidify modifier, give it a nice offset, and then apply. You can see we get the same results. And now if we add the subdivision surface, you see that we have a few issues here. Again, this is an issue that because I didn't scale this correctly, and I wasn't trying to, because this is just a simple tutorial and I'm trying to keep it quick. You can make sure that when you're scaling this and with the array still on, make sure that you have no gaps in your array. So but we want to fix this issue where we lose detail when we try to add the subdivision surface. So to bring back that detail, you just need to add a bevel modifier. Make sure it's above the subdivision surface. But the problem is if you apply the subdivision surface right now, on top of that, you'll get these facets in or sharp corners in areas you don't want them to be. So you can see we have a really sharp edge or corner here, because the bevel is also adding extra polygons here, which will let me see if you can see that. You can see it's adding two vertices here, two edge loops there to support this edge, which after we add the subdivision surface, it kind of makes this quite sharp. So to avoid that, we just want these creases to have the sharp corners. So what we can do is use the limit the method to angle. That way only sharp angles like in the creases here will have the bevel. So if we go to wireframe, you can see that around this we have those supporting corners, but on these rings here, we don't have the supporting corners. But if we change the limit to none, you can see we have supporting rings or edge loops around the rings as well. You want to limit it to angle, and if you're still getting some of the rings in the bevel, you can try increasing the angle distance. You can see as we increase it, some of the creases here are also losing the bevel. So let's leave it at 30 because I think that's a better angle that captures the creases without affecting these rings. So if we turn on the subdivision surface, you can see that we have a very rounded barrel, but we still maintain those creases in the barrel. So everything else here is very simple. I think that's it for the tutorial. If you want to watch how I did everything, you can just watch the time-lapse version of this. Thank you.